Good morning. I'm Brooke Newell, and I'm the pastor of the Queensbury United Methodist Church. I welcome you to this time of worship on Sunday, June 14th. We are gathering virtually until we are able to be together again in our sanctuary, which I hope is soon and very soon. I miss you and I wish you well. This morning's gospel reading comes from the Gospel of Matthew. We will share chapter 9, verses 35 through chapter 10, verse 23. And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every infirmity. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray therefore the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into the harvest." And Jesus called to him his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out and to heal every disease and every infirmity. The names of the 12 apostles are these: first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas, and Matthew the tax collector, James, the son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out, charging them, "Go nowhere among the Gentiles, and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And preach as you go, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, cast out demons. You received without paying, so give without pay. Take no gold, nor silver, nor copper in your belts, no bag for your journey, nor 2 tunics, nor sandals, nor a staff, for the laborer deserves his food. And whatever town or village you enter, find out who is worthy in it, and stay with them until you depart. As you enter the house, salute it. And if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it's not worthy, let your peace return to you. And if anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet as you leave that house or town. Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Beware of those who will deliver you up to the councils and flog you in the synagogues. You will be dragged before governors and kings for my sake, to bear testimony before them and the Gentiles. When they deliver you up, do not be anxious how you are to speak or what you are to say. For what you are to say will be given to you in that hour, for it is not you who speak, but the Spirit speaking through you. Brother will deliver up brother to death, and the father his child. And children will rise against parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated for my name's sake, but he who endures to the end will be saved. When they persecute you in one town, flee to the next. For truly I say to you, you will not have gone through all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man returns. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. about the illness and suffering of my friends and loved ones. I hear daily about another toddler getting his or her little hands on a loaded gun. I know we are destroying our climate, and I worry about what my son's generation will have to do to survive peaceably. I pray, Lord, oh Lord, what can I do? It can feel overwhelming. Some call it compassion fatigue. Jesus looked at the crowds with compassion, and it was likewise overwhelming. He had healed many of them from their physical ailments, but he knew there was so much more they needed to be truly well. He saw that they were harassed and helpless as sheep without a shepherd. Now don't think white fluffy sheep and cuddly lambs like paintings of that sweet little lamb in the arms of Jesus, the Good Shepherd. The word from the original Greek language translated in our text as harassed actually comes from the word for flayed. And the word for helpless has its origins in the word for skinned. Matthew's language is graphic and gross. These sheep are flayed and skinned, collapsed on the ground. Jesus sees them wounded and torn, and he's moved with compassion. Jesus decides more help is needed. He instructs the disciples, pray for the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into the harvest. And presumably they then pray that prayer. And the next thing you know, they're being commissioned as those workers. They are the answer to their own prayer. They are the ones being sent out into the harvest. The 12 aren't just students anymore. They're apostles, meaning ones sent out to do the work of Jesus. We, the followers of Jesus, are God's expression of compassion for the harassed and helpless flock. We are the answer to those prayers. We're called by Jesus to be bearers of life and hope to others. We're called to be the living gospel of peacemaking, feeding, and healing. As preaching professor Thomas Long says, preaching the gospel and saving souls means grappling with disease and the demoniac, with social segregation and the powers of death. It means, therefore, wrestling with issues of public health care, with racial and social alienation, with the powers of domination and oppression that bleed the life out of us. Fortunately, we do not have to do it alone. We have each other. It's reassuring to me that Jesus assembled a fairly diverse group for his apostles, a motley crew, if you will. Among the 12 are Peter, the first one, Matthew, the tax collector and Roman collaborator, Simon, the Canaanian, meaning rebel, Judas, the betrayer. Human nature being what it is, it's likely that they had their struggles working alongside one another, just as we sometimes do. Still, Jesus casts them out into the harvest. Episcopal priest Barbara Brown Taylor imagines it this way. There you are, perfectly content to be a follower, when Jesus comes home all worn out one day, with his hair hanging in his face and his clothes ringed with sweat and dirt. He looks around and he says, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. I need some help, and you're it. Then he holds his big hands out over your heads, and he preaches a prayer that travels down your backbone like a chill, giving you authority over demons, over disease, even over death. And when he has finished, you open your eyes and you look around at each other to see if you can tell any difference. Next, you take a deep breath to test whether or not anything has changed inside. Do you feel wiser, stronger, more capable? Nope, just less, sort of. Just tingly and curious and, well, ready not for anything in particular, just generally ready for whatever is next. That's when Jesus starts calling out names. You two, take Glens Falls. You two, take Lake George. You two in the back, take the SUNY Adirondack campus. You two start with the apartments behind the church. Here's what I need you to do. Preach the kingdom, heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the outcast, cast out demons. Boy, do I need a weekend off. You all have a great time. I can't wait to hear the stories you have when you come back. Now get out there. Go, 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 go. They are sent out, cast out into the harvest. It's the same verb in the original Greek language that's used for scattering seed. God is casting the disciples as seed into the harvest at harvest time. Wait, does that even make sense? Even though I know that seed is sown well before harvest time. But Matthew says that the disciples are to be scattered into the harvest. Perhaps that's because God can see what I'm not able to see. I see the need, I see the despair. I know my insufficiency. But God sees the coming of God's reign and the gathering in of God's people in peace, wholeness, and justice. In the midst of the flayed and skinned flock, in the very beginning of the disciples' ministry, in the scattering of seed, God already anticipates the coming fruit of a renewed and restored people. In his translation of the Bible called The Message, Eugene Peterson writes, "Don't begin by traveling off to some far-off place to convert unbelievers. And don't try to be dramatic by tackling some public enemy, but go to the lost, confused people right here in the neighborhood. Tell them God's kingdom is here. Bring health to the sick, raise the dead, touch the untouchables, kick out the demons. You've been treated generously, so live and give generously." Sometimes we get to see that sign of hope that God is working in the world. Here's a story from Anne Lamott's book called Plan B. She writes about being discouraged and overwhelmed on her 49th birthday by the political and social climate. Depressed, she prays for God to help her be helpful. She drives herself to the grocery store to buy herself her birthday dinner. In the checkout line, she wins a ham. The clerk is very excited. She tries to be excited too, but she hates ham. She wonders what she's going to do with that big, pink, eraser-like slab of salty meat that makes her bloat. She's irritated and has to wait 10 minutes for the ham. But then she thinks that if God is giving her a ham, she should probably take it. Maybe, she thinks irreverently, it's the ham of God that takes away the sins of the world. In the parking lot, she's thinking about chucking the ham out the window near a field when her cart accidentally runs into the car of an old friend. She's sitting in the parking lot with her children crying because she doesn't have any money for groceries. Lamott writes, "I reached into my shopping cart and I held out the ham to her like a clown offering flowers. 'Hey,' I said, 'do you and your kids like ham?' 'We love it,' her friend answered. 'We love it for every meal.' The friend put it in the seat beside her, firmly and lovingly, as if she were about to strap it in, and then she cried some more. God gives us the means and opportunities to tend the flock. Jesus still sends us out as workers into the harvest to do what we can, where we are, with the gifts we've been given. And we ourselves are tended to by the Good Shepherd who gathers and cares for us. He has given us his own authority for healing and reconciliation, for preaching the good news of God's reign drawn near. We're blessed to have glimpses of that reign of God, which encourages us as we continue the work of Jesus peacefully, simply, together. Thanks be to God. Amen. this day, bearing witness to the love and compassion of Jesus. You were sent out as apostles to heal the sick, to bring peace, justice, and restoration to God's creation. Amen.